How do you think Meridian Legal Advisors are thinking about it, and how can you help people who are currently training models, buying models, getting it from renting models? So, what is your take on it? How will you help your customers?
I think with everybody, it's not just business owners, it's everybody. What have you built or what do you have that you want protected? Because a lot of times we will go out, we'll form an LLC.
What do you think at which stage legal tech founders, whether they're US citizens having a US partner or being just a US citizen launching a tech company like this, should take advice from a business attorney like you?
So AI is here, it's here to stay. Another article I was reading just last week talking about the systems themselves. When it first came out, it hallucinated. You remember those videos that you'd see like on
Yeah,
Facebook Reels, and they were clearly AI, and you're like, this is
yeah.
terrible.
I have had so many meetings with attorneys from various fields, and very rarely I've seen attorneys who understand the audience they're talking to. I initially went to his website and saw this headline: law, tax, and protection, all in one. Instead of, top tax attorney in Texas. And I knew that I had to talk to Matt because he understands human psychology better than most attorneys I meet. Matt is the founder and owner of Meridian Legal Advisors. He has worked at JP Morgan and Capital One and in other very extremely prominent companies. So, welcome to the podcast, Matt. It's great having you here.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be here, and what an introduction.
So, Matt, before we move to questions specific to certain industries that I work with, could you please explain the difference between a wealth management attorney like yourself and a financial advisor?
Definitely. And being that I am both, I guess I can tell you the difference. So, financial advising is along the lines of let's look at the finances. And with that, you're really kind of siloed into that specific section. And so I worked, my background was actually an equities trader. Got licensed in '05 with my Series 7 and 63 and several other licenses. Moved out to Boca Raton, Florida, of all places, to help open a trading desk. And that was the equity side. And so we were trading all the time. We were market makers. I was the Series 24 principal of the whole trading desk. So I got an introduction to the old way of the industry. That way really kind of went down in 2008, 2009 when Lehman went down and proprietary trading went down. And at that point, the trend that I saw was going into advising. And so I got up with JP Morgan in all places, Norman, Oklahoma. Don't ask me how I got there. It's a long story. But my goal was to manage I'd call it the excess money, the wealth of people that were coming in. But that was the limit. I knew tax, I knew estate planning, but it was always, hey, we don't give advice. You're not a CPA, you're not an attorney. Stop giving advice. So people would come in, they'd ask, well, what's going to happen when I sell this? Well, there'll be taxes on it. Well, how much? Well, I mean, we can kind of calculate it, but you really need to talk to your CPA, which is the worst answer anybody can give anybody. And
Definitely.
that was the start of the era. And so then I finally make my way back to Texas. I'm with Capital One Investing. I'm adding more to it. I get my CFP professional certification. And I start looking at, I want to be able to do more because I did not like being siloed in just this one section. And again, I knew the information. And again, I was told, hey, we don't give that advice. We're not that professional. And it was terrible. And I said, no, absolutely not. I'm going to law school. And so at the merry old age of 38, I said, I'm going to go become a tax attorney. It wasn't tax at first, it was estate planning, but they don't have that much estate planning. And so then you just take all the tax classes. And so wealth management in this case is really an extension of financial advising. We're not just looking at the investments, the returns, the things like that. We're looking at the whole package because investment management is just a small piece of it. How does all this affect you in the long run? Or are you saving on taxes? Are you doing tax strategy? Are you bringing in other assets? The thing about the financial advisory world that I just never liked was here you are, you have all this money, you're putting in the market, bonds, stocks, mutual funds, things like that. 8 years ago when I decided, hey, I'm going to law school, that was really all we could do for them. And there was real estate. I understood the value of real estate, depreciation, things like that, oil and gas plays, private equity, but we're not allowed to push that out. And nor, as the financial advisor, do we really want you taking that money out and moving it into real estate, moving it into real assets. And that was part of the thought that I started having was, what if we could do all that together? And as wealth management, you're really getting more broad. It's not just tax, it's not just investments, it's how is your business set up? How is your estate plan set up? What happens to all of this stuff tomorrow if you don't make it home? And that's really the view I take now was I wanted the one-stop shop because I was so tired of sending people away to CPAs, sending people away to attorneys who would never talk with each other. In 20 years of financial advising, I'll call it, I don't think I've ever sat with the lawyer and the CPA for any of the advisors I would meet with or for any of my clients because it was always this way. In wealth management, it's no longer, hey, you go over there and get your taxes done. You go over there and talk to the attorney. Now it's, I talk to your CPA, I talk to your other attorney, I talk to your financial advisor, and this is what we're doing. Or in our case, I just brought it all into one house. And so every morning we sip our coffee, eat the kolaches, and talk about the client.
Yeah, that gives obviously Meridian a big advantage in terms of, as a business owner, I can understand. I don't want to shop at different places. If I get the right advice at one place, that would be great. But past having just a lot of people know, okay, I want to open an LLC, probably I'll be safe, and that's all. Past just having regular insurances like this, what are the most important legal steps a business owner should take early on? That is about protecting like key things like a main patent or a big list of customers from a sudden lawsuit or someone trying to collect a debt.
I think with everybody, it's not just business owners, it's everybody. What have you built or what do you have that you want protected? Because a lot of times we will go out, we'll form an LLC and we do business in it. But there's more to just forming an LLC. If you just form an LLC, but you don't create the operating agreement, you don't put that LLC's ownership into the trust that you create. If you don't work your estate plan with your business plan, now you're going to start to have problems. I've seen it many times where there's a lack of the planning. It's just, hey, I created an LLC, I'm good, I'm doing business, I'm protected. And that's not always the case. Sometimes the courts have come through and said, well, this is an LLC on paper, but it's not really an LLC. This is you. And I've talked about it many times, and I think I just like the word piercing the corporate veil. It sounds so smooth, but it's a terrible, terrible thing to happen. But that's what we see happen is it's more than I'm going to create a business. It becomes, how do I incorporate what I'm doing to protect myself, to protect my business, to protect my employees? And if something happens to me, what is my succession planning? And not succession as in I'm selling the business, but if I get hit by a car, who's going to run my business? Who's going to pay my employees? I can tell you this much. Doing probate, you learn quickly that if you don't have authorization, those banks will not release that money. And I've seen these companies collapse because nobody's getting paid. And then you see the spouse or the widow finally turn around and say, look, I'm selling the company, and instead of getting $1 for $1, now I'm getting 30 cents on the dollar. And to really answer the question, I think it all starts with, we don't sit down enough as individuals, and I'm responsible for this too, and write down everything we own, write down how it's structured, and then ask ourselves seriously, what happens if I don't come home tomorrow? And with business, it's even more so. How else do you protect yourself? Insurance, things like that, anonymity, and some other things.
Right. So, from a perspective of, let's suppose, a lot of tech companies that register an LLC in US, a lot of founders are not US citizens, right? Including myself. I run my software industry. I run my software business. I give services, but the thing is, I am not a US citizen. Then again, it's so easy to open an LLC because there are many companies around. They tell you, okay, you gotta pay maybe $500 and your LLC will be registered in Delaware, Texas, Wyoming, anywhere. But the real thing that I learned was when I expanded to UAE. That's when I learned that they have so much documentation. They do. Why isn't? How will people know what are the main, benefits of consulting with a legal advisor like you before they actually launch a legit business in US?
Well, first off, as you're saying, there's certain rules. So you can have an LLC and be a non-resident alien. What you can't do is the S-Corp election. And so there's different types of rules that play into it. So first off, you want to know that, because if you attempt to do an S-Corp election, you've paid all this money for nothing because it's not going to go through. I think the other part is really looking at it from the protective standpoint, and it's part of business planning. A lot of people, they form the business and, okay, now I'm going to do business. No, forming the business is the doing the business. So let's start with it right. And a lot of times people will come in and it's very simple. It's just me. It's just me and that's it. But again, that same question happens. What happens if something happens to you? What if you're extremely successful and then something happens to you? What happens at that point? Operating agreements, which we talk about with LLCs, they go much further than that. When you're bringing partners in, when you're doing certain things, let's say high-end dollar amounts, it all controls what happens with these things. And again, when you're creating this business, do you really want to create it right back to you? Do you want yourself to be the first person who gets the distribution? What if you're in a high-risk type scenario? So let's talk about doctors. Doctors always have concern. Well, I've seen judgments where, okay, there was a judgment that spilled over from the LLC and got to the individual. So there were certain income type garnishments that could be taken. And so when money is paid directly to the individual from the business, now that money can be garnished. So what is a safer matter? If it's just something small, hey, I'm a virtual assistant online, and so I don't have huge risk, then you don't need a second layer of protection. You may just say, all right, pay myself out, and that's it. Another thing is looking at the reality from a second point of view. So I can come up with a phenomenal idea, and I can sit here and say, this is it. This is how I'm going to make my mark. I'm going to be worth billions of dollars. But I need a second opinion on it. Normally that second opinion is my wife, who will sometimes look at me and say, get back to the drawing board. and that's what the lawyer and what you're really doing. A lot of people think that you're hiring an attorney like myself to create the documents. I create the documents as ancillary to the actual legal aspects, but what we're really doing is we're having a conversation together about what it is you want to do, how we're going to set it up, and how we make sure you're protected from it. And I talk about it all the time. We work so hard in our lives to build things up. This is a part of that work that needs to be done. But a lot of people are, I'll just go online and create a real quick LLC. I'll be fine. And then they bring partners in later. And then they have all this stuff, or they'll create an operating agreement, but they never actually change things up. And when they pass away, suddenly this partner who was gone for years comes back and says, hey, I'm still involved in this. I've just been working from the side. Give me my cut. And so it's more than just the documents. It's what are you doing talk to somebody who understands it, because it's that feedback that you're getting that really tells you a lot. That to me is worth the price. I'm going to talk to somebody who understands it at a level that's deeper than me. And if they tell me, you're not doing that, or okay, we can do that, but we really need to plan practically, that's the advantage you're getting.
Definitely. And this brings me to another point actually. So as we, build softwares for specifically legal tech startups, right? So they have a ideation phase and then they validate the idea, go towards seed, early stage, rapid scaling, there are multiple seed rounds. They try to mature and exit at the end, late stage private equity or IPO. What do you think, at which stage legal tech founders, whether they're US citizens having a US partner or being just a US citizen launching a tech company like this, should take advice from a business attorney like you?
Well, I'm going to naturally tell you when the idea comes up and it's time to start building something out. Take something as simple. Well, it depends on who you are, whether or not this is simple. I do a lot of work on my Jeep. I have an older Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's my drive to Mexico vehicle. So me and my wife jump in it. We drive to Mexico. Nobody wants this car. It's a good second car to have. But with it, it's got 250,000 miles on it, and it has work that comes up. So let's say I need to work on the brakes. I don't just go out there and pull the tire off and start unscrewing things and figure it out as I'm doing it, because I guarantee you there will be a nut that's left over. And I'm going to say, is this important? I don't know. And I think that's the same thing with everything we're building in businesses. There's research that has to be done. And you can find out a lot of things online, but the more important details, the things that come down to, how do I protect myself? How do I protect my company? How do I make sure that I'm not paying these ridiculous amounts in taxes? How do I prevent legal spillover into my own personal life? Those are the type of things that you need to plan ahead. Because if we sit here and have a conversation from the get-go and I tell you, hey, you need to do it this way, now we've added a step to it where if you don't do it now, yes, you can do it later, but it's going to cost you more money because now you have to do new filings, you have to update, assign interest. And it comes down to, if you're going to do something, do it right and get the information that you need up hand.
Right. So moving forward from this, let's say I have got an attorney from the very beginning, and then because I'm in legal tech, I understand the information, whether it's client side or the business side. It's very, very important to have the privacy laws intact, right? So let's suppose there is an unexpected legal, maybe the sensitive data was leaked because you tried to wipe code the initial software. So what is the role in that particular situation of a legal counsel, and will he be able to manage that kind of risk?
So it's not something I typically do. So I can only speak on, here's how the situation should be handled. Of course, when you're doing stuff with data, privacy issues, you definitely need to bring somebody in, because we're seeing lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit over privacy data breaches. And we've seen, it was years ago, and I can't remember the name of the company, but they practically went out of business because everything got leaked out and people were furious. It happens more often now, and you get this letter that says, hey, we're going to give you 3 free months to Experian and TransUnion because, oops, we messed up. I think when you're getting into those type of compliance issues, those type of risks, the things that can really bring a company down, that's definitely a step. Hey, I need somebody who, A, understands it, and B, can guide me through it. And that's compliance with everything. I mentioned that I'm a Series 24 supervisory principal on the brokerage side. You don't just step into that role. It's just, okay, I'm the principal now. No, there's a lot of research you have to do. There's a lot of sitting with another person who's already there so that they can explain, look, this isn't allowed. This is allowed. And it's like that in every business. The more complex, the more important it is. And for these type of things, the pushback is always, well, having a counsel on staff, that's expensive. No, what's expensive is your company being wiped out in 5 years of your life, completely going away, and now you're banned from the business, and you're saying, well, what am I gonna do?
Exactly. So, these days there's a rapid, I think it's not just about the adoption, but a lot of companies, a lot of new people who do not understand the software that much, they have been adopting autonomous AI agents in business, right? The line of liability is becoming increasingly blurred. So, for example, this is just a question from to make my audience understand a bit better. For a company deploying an AI agent that takes an unauthorized action, right, such as entering into a contract, deleting maybe critical data, something that does where legal and financial responsibility is. Now, the question is, if you do not have a business plan initially, and an autonomous AI agent has done it without your authorization, specifically, how does the liability shift in this case? In fact, I'll just take one more minute so I have, I can tell you. For example, there are three types of companies. So there is a SaaS model, software as a service, where the agent is managed by a third party vendor. So let's suppose that SaaS model has been implemented in a law firm and it does something that is wrong without any authorization. Then there are companies who build custom models. So the company or the law firm owns that model, where it is developed and it is controlled internally, and then it takes an unauthorized action because they can do that. Then the third thing could be they could take an open source model, like you might have heard about OpenClaw very recently. An anonymous model does so many things. For these three types, what do you think? Where is the responsibility, and are there any laws being made, or are there any laws in place right now? And who's going to take the blame if something like this happens?
So that always comes down to what's in the contractual agreement, because it has to be in there. If there was recently an article, it was about a month ago, that AI, the system was wiping out all the data, and they lost everything. And you sit there saying, I paid a huge amounts of money for this AI system, and now it just wiped me out completely. I'm suing somebody. But I'm pretty sure that if you look deep into that contractual agreement, it's going to tell you, no, you're on your own. I think that's a phenomenal thought and question on your end, because what if it does something completely illegal? Well, I didn't do it. It's not my fault, but I'm in control of this system. This is my system. So maybe I am at fault. Now, can I shift that blame back to the creator and say, look, you created an evil sentient being that just took over and threatened all my customers. I'm not paying for this. So you might have some, cross claims against people. But what I find in law a lot is it doesn't matter whose fault it is. You're the one that had the system tell me, threaten me. You're the one that had the system delete the data. You're getting sued. That's going to happen. Now, whether or not you can toss that blame over to the creator or somebody else, it doesn't matter, because you're still going to spend a ton of money defending yourself.
Right. And, this is one of the reasons, because I see in the tech industry, it's going to be very, very, again, people are going to face the same issues. How do you think Meridian Legal Advisors are thinking about it? And how can you help people who are currently training models, buying models, getting it from renting models. So, what is your take on it? How will you help your customers?
So AI is here. It's here to stay.
Mm,
Another article I was reading just last week
mm,
talking about the systems themselves. When it first came out, it
mm.
hallucinated. You remember those videos that you'd see like on Facebook
Yeah,
Reels, and they were clearly AI, and you're like, "This is terrible."
yeah,
I can't tell the difference between them anymore. I don't know what's
yeah.
real. I don't know what's not. AI
Mm,
passed the bar.
mm,
AI, ChatGPT passed the bar. I don't know about other ones, probably so. They're getting to a point now where they're writing their own code. In this article, this gentleman says he used
mm,
to have to check it. He used to have to give it
mm,
corrections. He says, now I just
mm,
enter in the code, I walk away, I come back. Not only has it written it, it tested it, it found flaws, it fixed that, and did everything
mm,
all together. It's
mm,
here. It's changing everything. How the law side is using it, you see it a lot in research. Now,
mm,
we're still at that point where, okay, if it lists cases, you go over to another program and you check these cases, make sure they're
mm,
right. It does make mistakes,
mm.
it does make errors.
Yeah.
But what used to be in litigation specifically, massive hours of research that you had to do is now being cut in half, if not more so. And so you're seeing it everywhere. Even some of my back office drafting type programs and things like that are now incorporating it. But of course, with
Mm,
law, you cannot use open
mm,
source. This is going to be a huge
yeah.
issue in the future as these people have put out information onto the open source, and now it
Mm,
can come back and bite it. So when you're working with it, you have to be extremely careful in that manner. But just
mm,
looking at it from, our back office standpoint, we use several different CRMs that all have built-in
mm,
AI for them, and
mm,
it's fantastic.
mm,
It makes things so
mm,
much easier, so much more
mm,
efficient because you go in there, and again, what used to cost me 2 hours now only takes me 45 minutes. So guess what, client? You only spent
mm,
45 minutes on it, and now you have money to go back to other things. Do I worry about data breaches and things like that? Absolutely. I think anytime you're dealing with private information, client information,
mm,
you have to worry. And so what do? You go and you pay extra to get with a CRM type service that is going to protect that data. It's on
mm,
them at that point. Now, can the client come back and say, "Well, you lost my data"? Absolutely. There could
mm,
be a lawsuit that comes
mm.
right back at me for
Yeah.
this, and I have
Yeah.
to prepare for that. That's where your insurance comes in, and it's where
Mm,
checking with the service. If I buy it one time and I never talk to them about it again, that's one thing. But if I have a
mm,
quarterly call to them and say, tell
mm,
me what you're doing to protect my data. How are you as safe and
mm,
efficient as some of these other companies? Now it becomes a little bit more, hey, I'm on top of
mm,
this. And I called you 5 times last year and we had this conversation and you assured me that I didn't need to go somewhere else because you have it
mm,
handled. And
mm,
then it becomes a much easier argument for you. But absolutely, the industry's changing, and with it, we have the same fears and the same concerns we've always had. But we also have worry of, hey, what is this system doing when the lights are off
mm.
and nobody's here?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I was reading about this post made by another lawyer who was like, I have a 17 years practice, and I feel like I'm becoming useless every day because the cases, the documentation that I get from my clients sometimes are even better than what I think they should be. And but anyway, coming to this, there's a big concern here that I want to talk about. Specifically, the young lawyers who are taking, they're in their early career. You switched your career, you just told me. So you pursued a degree because you felt like there's a need of advising people, right? You couldn't advise before. But because of so much uncertainty due to AI and jobs, do you think pursuing a law degree is even worth it today?
So this was a conversation yesterday, and
Hmm.
I have been pretty good in my career of spotting where the problems are coming. Like I said, when Lehman's went down, I knew immediately, okay, trading's over. I had wanted that beautiful stockbroker's laugh where I'm trading stocks, I'm making money. No, it pretty much ended that day, and now it's very little that takes place. There's still a market for it, but it's not like it was before. You're not being hired by a lot of companies to go in there and just trade. And so then it became the advising. And with the advising, I saw it again. If I'm just sitting here managing your investments, and computers can do this now, this was a big deal. I think it was in 2017 or so. Fidelity was coming out with a computerized system that would do it for you at a fraction of the cost. I said, well, I've got to have something that brings in other interests besides just sitting there trading your account for you, or putting you in a managed allocation. And so that became, well, if you add tax, if you add the estate plan, if you add these other services, now it's not about the investments. And I tell people all the time, it's not the investments. The investments are the least of our worry. In fact, those investments are sitting there making something for us until we find the next big asset we're going to purchase, because we have more control over that. We have the ability for tax strategy using that. And so the shift has been away from it's all financial advising, to more of that wealth management side. But I see it now. The conversation yesterday was, I'm looking at stuff people draft, and I'm sitting here saying, wow, this is pretty good. Now, there's a lot of flaws in it, and that's where you're seeing these flaws. And one of the big conversations now is when people are going to create their own stuff. They go online, they pay a couple $100. There's no advising in that. And if there is advice, it needs to be coming from an attorney. But a lot of times it's not coming from the attorney. It's coming from somebody unlicensed practicing law. And that, I feel, is going to be a crackdown. But they're missing a lot of large deals. And because of that, probate has just exploded with all these type of contested situations, because people are going in and saying, it was never signed. She created a will. She didn't properly sign it. There's no two witnesses. It could be, well, she didn't understand that she was giving my brother the house and not me. So they're contesting that. So as I see this, my feel is, and I've always done probate, but it is to get more into those roles where AI can't take over, but AI can seriously assist. And that means, hey, standing up in front of a courtroom and conversing and winning your client's case. I don't see that going away. But for a lot of these young people coming in, it's a misadvantage for them. They're being disadvantaged because they're never learning it in the first place. And so they're being told by the chat GPT, the AI, that, hey, this is the way to do it. And they never really learn it. And so the difference between an attorney who really understands it is, yes, you can go and you can create a contract. And then you come in there and you fill in all the gaps. But you have to understand what these gaps are. And a lot of people aren't being trained. So you're seeing contracts that are completely missing certain things as the liability waiver. You're missing all kind of aspects of it, and they're turning these products out. And then what happens? Something goes wrong. And where does it end up? In court. So for attorneys, I think there will always be a need for the higher end estate planning, the asset protection, because that's advice. It's a service you're providing. But for a lot of these people who, hey, they silo in, I do wills and trusts for people, that's going away. They're going to have to learn to stand up in front of a court and a judge and present a case and move forward, because this industry is changing. I said it the other day. In 5 years, I may be in Mexico selling coconuts because I've got a worthless law degree.
No, well, I don't. I very humbly disagree with the fact that you will be selling coconuts, because obviously, the thing that I believe here is that it's also a responsibility of the managing partners, the senior people, to bring in these people and guide them how to effectively give the right advice. Because ultimately, these models are not self-conscious, right? They cannot tell whether this action will be right or wrong. But from your grounded experience, I basically learned that you said once that we'd get on the phone in your early career, we call people, we cold call them, and try to sell them stocks. Now, when I talk to a lot of lawyers, most of them absolutely detest sales, right? They think, and it's not just about it's hard, it's about they think their stature is way above than just talking to people, right, on the phone. Do you think that having a humble personality from the very beginning, starting from very small job and rising to the top like yourself, is it very important for people to understand in this age?
Yes, and not because that's the way I had to do it, but because it humbled me. There have been so many times where, okay, this is it. I'm going to get this amazing job and this is going to be it. And no, oh, Matt, you know what? We need you to instead do this work that nobody wants to do because why? You know or you like math. Like, so you want me to do math equations all day? This is my job. Things like that. And I think there's always the advantage of coming up the hard way and learning the hard way. You learn to speak to people because what you said the last time didn't work. And so now you've changed it and you're trying something different. And rejection is probably the best life lesson I've ever had. And I hated getting on the phone. I hated calling people. I got a job one time. And on day one, like I was supposed to run the equities department, but on day one, they gave me a list of 250 people who in a survey said they were unhappy with Merrill Lynch and I should call every one of them. By day three, I was done. I had been cursed at. I had been yelled at. This wasn't warm call. This is, hey, we know you're unhappy. Come over. And it was brutal and it was a beatdown, but I did it anyways because that was how I needed to make the money. I had bills to pay. So it was either make these phone calls or find a place to live. I look back at the career I've taken and the steps I've taken, and I've been very fortunate in the manner that I've been able to sit back in life and say, look, I'd like to learn more. I made this decision. Capital One was basically selling their investment side to another firm. And pretty much everybody was being let go. And I said, I'm not going to take this as this is terrible. Like I was rocking it. I was set. I would work another 7 years and be done. I took it as this is a sign in life to do something else. What is it? And so I went to law school. And law school was a beatdown. And you had mentioned, is it worth going to law school? Absolutely. Because you talk about job security. If wealth management doesn't work because the economy goes down, I'm not sticking in wealth management. I'm jumping over to bankruptcy. If all that fails, I may go criminal. There are so many options you can do because you educate yourself and you give yourself the opportunity to go out and do something different if something else fails. And I think I'm always jealous of the people who get that friend who, hey, come work for my company. And the next thing you know, they're a millionaire. And you're like, this isn't fair. But it happens and good for them. But for me, it's always been the only thing I know is that I have to take one step at a time. And I joke, it's like CrossFit. I don't want to go. I don't want to go to CrossFit today, but I'm going to go and I'm going to feel good about it. And I'm going to get better at the things. And that's work. That's career. That's life. It's just shut up and do it. Don't quit. You can complain. I'm a complainer, just not a quitter.
That's true. Actually, that's right, because 99% of the people do not have rich friends to, hold them and work for them. But here's one thing that I want to specifically say, right? For example, if I am a young attorney, I want to, just start my career. Like you had the advantage of being in the sales and you have then worked for many large companies. Learning about things other than law, like business management, communication skills. There's so many things that you need to run a law firm. It's not just a small thing to do that. So do you think in the age of AI, where drafting is being done so quickly, learning these skills which make you a strategic person, how important are they today?
I think they're very important because law is law. You have to learn law in order to do anything. You can't be a lawyer and every time the judge asks you, well, why is that? Hang on, Your Honor. Let me ask Arvin, who I named. Arvin, why is it? And hang on, any minute now, Your Honor. Just a few more minutes. It's slow. It helps when you learn something. I was talking the other day about trying to sell something that you have no idea about. It's very hard to do it. At some point, you have to back off, realizing I'm looking like a fool here. I should have done more research. And I've been in that situation where you don't prepare, and then the client comes in asking you, well, what is going to happen with this? So you have to be good at your trade. You have to be able to communicate what it is needs to be done. And so a lot of people coming in to law school, they're coming straight out of college. I had an advantage. I had a successful career doing things, and this was, hey, I would like to do more. So I was determined. I knew where I was going. It became, I'm studying, I'm focusing, and I'm not just going to take these easy classes. I'm going to take 8 tax law classes and really learn something. I had a professor, and he made a point in Tax 1 class of all places. He said, law and education in general. Education is the only thing we'll pay full price for and skip out on. And he's absolutely right. And that stuck with me because here I am dropping all this money. I better get something out of it. And the more we educate, the better we get at everything. And a lot of people, the younger people coming straight out, they don't have that experience of talking to people. They've never been yelled at. I've seen young attorneys or young advisors get yelled at, start crying, and just quit. And it's like, whoa. It happens. It's okay. We've all been yelled at. Let's go buy lunch and we'll talk about it, and it'll be okay. The experiences you get from going through all that is what makes you stronger. And then you get to that point where, okay, I've learned something and I can convey that message, and I'm able to help people, help myself, and move forward.
Right. So, when you go through this journey, right, you've learned so much. You've learned about business. You've learned about sales. You've learned about managing a firm. You learn about operations, everything else, right? So, other day I was talking with another attorney from Canada, and she wanted her Clio intake to be integrated with her website and some SEO stuff. As I sat down with her, I realized she would do everything in her firm. She was writing the blog, she was taking consultations, she was emailing, managing retainers, she was running everything. So, and she kept on complaining that she hated her practice because she doesn't get time to, spend time with her babies. And I was like, why would you not delegate stuff that is below your hourly rate? And she said, I've had huge experience. I've been a teacher. I've done so much. And I don't feel like that I should hand over a lot of stuff to people because they don't do the job as good as I want them to. Now, this is what she said. Now, initially, obviously running a law firms, the stakes are very high. You need clients, you need retainers, you need freedom to practice law. Now, how do you manage this tense environment, and what tasks do you think are absolutely necessary to be delegated?
So my first law office, when I came out, I wanted to be a financial advisor and have investment management side, and I wanted to be an attorney at the same time. And so I would go out and talk to these companies and say, I do both. I went to law school so that I could do everything. And I kept getting the same answer or question really back from them. It's like, hey, Matt, like, we love you. This is phenomenal. You're a certified financial planner professional. You got, at that time, like 16 years in the industry. You're a lawyer. You can do all this stuff. Our clients are going to love you. But you can't do the investment management if you're going to work with us. Or it was the vice versa. Matt, we want you on board. You're going to kill it with our clients. You can advise them in a way, but you can't be an attorney. And that was the reality of, well, your plan isn't why I went to law school. I went to law school so I could do it all together. And so what did that mean? It meant I had to do it myself. So I formed the law office of Robert M. Meredith, and I went to learn. There was so many mornings I would wake up, massive anxiety, massive just, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. And I would sit there for 2 weeks obsessing over something. And then finally I would sit down and it'd take me 20 minutes to figure it out. And I would look at myself and be like, you idiot, you let this tear you apart inside. And you learn from this though. You learn your craft, you learn your trade. But I did it all. But here was the problem. I did what I like to do. I like to do the legal work. I like to sit in the back and do the drafting. I like to meet with the client, handle the client. And what I hated to do was the marketing, the branding, to go into these events, the commerce, Chamber of Commerce and networking events, shaking hands and being, hey, let's collaborate with each other. And that is how you grow a business. And so the problem was, all right, I'm not making enough money for it. I'm going to have to consult and do some other things, which all panned out. A lot of attorneys do it because of two reasons. A, it's phenomenal money, especially if you understand the trade. But B, it allows you to continue your practice on the side and growing it in an organic manner. And then eventually it got to the point where I met the people who we formed Meridian for. From working with them, and it became, hey, let's go do this on our own. Let's grow it. And that's when I brought in a COO. That's when I brought in other attorneys, a paralegal. And yes, there are costs associated with it, but when you're starting up, people who like your message, who like your ideas say, hey, look, we'll figure out the pay. Let's just get moving. Let's start getting clients in. Let's start making things happen. And let me tell you something, delegating to these people is phenomenal. It has taken so much stress off of me. But here's the funny part. I don't do the work anymore. Yes, I review it. Yes, I deal with the client. But my job is to go out and get the next client. My job is to be the marketing guy. The thing I hate the most is my job. And so all of my time is spent coming up with how do I get the next client in, because I know I have a team. And yes, in the beginning, delegating is very scary. I don't know if they're going to do it right, and I have to control it. But you quickly, people are not, like a lot of people who work together, oh, I can never delegate. Nobody will do it as good as me. Wrong. They'll do it better than you, and they'll do it in a fraction of the time. And it'll cost you next to nothing compared to what you're spending. So now you can go get another client and you can hand it over. And that has become a lot of the things. Like, I don't even get to answer my phone anymore. They've taken it from me. They said, Matt, you sent too many people to voicemail because you were in meetings, so you were taking your phone. Yeah. And so now somebody answers and, oh, okay, well, hang on, let me grab Attorney Meredith for you. But that's the beauty of working with a good team. Now, I got lucky because we all work together and we know how to work together. And it's phenomenal when you can bring people in who know certain areas where you can say, look, I've never done this before, but now I have an attorney who can do it. I trust this attorney, and they can bring in that business. And so now you're expanding in ways you never could as a solo, but you have to delegate that out.
Yeah, definitely. And basically I say, I tell everybody who's in my line of business, I say, the CEO, the job, if you do not have a salesperson, then you are the only salesperson. And if you are not the salesperson, I think company is going to die because you need to learn sales ultimately, no matter what the business is. But here's the question, right? See, you talked about probate. And the clients come in, how important in today, even AI, you can put up, voice agents, they can take a call, they can, send emails, they can do so much. But how important is the connection of human to a human when somebody's in trouble? Obviously, there's a probate case coming up. So, what do you do to humanize the whole thing for the people so they know they're talking to Matt, not some, AI agent?
I had a guy call the office the other day, and my COO picked up the phone and was talking. He was telling me afterwards, he's like, "Man, I thought it was a computerized robot. It sounded so good and so professional and so nice." And then so I started asking questions like, "Where's Matt?" And I met Matt here, and so I was calling him, and that's when I knew, because the way she responded was, "Oh, okay, fantastic." He was like, "She's phenomenal. Like, let her answer you." And because I was complaining, they took my phones from me. So, and I always believe if it's something small, you can let the computerization come in. It's easier, it's cheaper. But I don't deal with that many small things. Normally, we're dealing with somebody who needs asset protection. So we need to build businesses. We have to have the estate plan because these businesses have to go somewhere. Then we bring in tax strategies. So they're bigger tickets because there's all these things wrapped into one. And you better pick up the phone and call them. You better be, you don't have to go. I love in-person meetings. I never do an office setting. Let's go get coffee and talk. It's more personal. And a lot of those meetings have very little to do with the business. It's getting to know each other. Are we going to work together? And from there, you're creating that relationship to go from there. And my role in the company is, when there's a problem, you call Matt. And it's for the clients. Is my role is the marketing, the branding, the somewhat running of the company, making sure that the people in charge of running it are running it, and dealing with the client's needs and customer service. And you can't really delegate that part out, especially to a computer system. Now, does that mean I don't put a chat bot on my website? Absolutely, I do that, because that's immediate. But those people are expecting a call. And it's like I say, if I'm spending money with somebody, and in particular decent amount of money, you need to pick up the phone and answer me. You need to respond to me, because if not, there's other people who will. And so it's again, that I think is the most uncomfortable part for most people. So they want to automate it. They want to make it, because nobody wants to pick up the phone and say, "Yeah, I found you on Thumbtack. How much do you charge for just a power of attorney?" And it's like, we don't do just power of attorneys. We do all these other things, but people don't want to say that. And so it becomes, you got to do it enough that you become comfortable with it, or there's other ways, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Because ultimately, the business or the money comes the last. Before that, you need to have that personal connection before you ever work with anybody.
Correct.
Now, here's one thing about business, right? You said you do tax planning, financial planning, and so much for the businesses. What about the people who do not own a business, right? What about them? How is Meridian helping those people? And
Sure.
why should they contact you immediately today?
Definitely. And so I've always said this: we are not cookie cutter. We are sitting down and we're analyzing. And this is the viewpoint that is for everyone. You're not just talking to an attorney. So you have an estate plan issue. You don't want the cookie cutter estate planning. You want somebody to really dive into it, to talk to you about it, to help you plan it. And we do that. A lot of the things that are problems in estate planning, it's not the document, it's the planning. You see it all the time. Somebody makes their oldest child the executor or the trustee. And the oldest child has two children of their own. It's the darling of the family who has a job, is married, and has absolutely no time for anything. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about what happens at this? How many times have we made co-trustees who don't even get along because we never had the conversation of, well, Do they get along a lot? And I was told this one time. Oh, no, they hate each other, but I think this will bring them together closer. No, it made things so much worse. And so it becomes this, like, it's the planning aspect of it. It's not a document. Like, I don't care what happens when I die. I'm going to move on, hopefully to a better place. The document's not for me. It's for the people who are still here and making sure that they can do the things to survive. And I need to plan this out appropriately. And so with the estate planning, we do that. Being that I'm the financial side as well, it's not just here's your documents. It's here's your documents. Now send me proof that you've updated your contingent beneficiary to the trust. Send me proof that we've got all these things we talked about that you've taken care of. And that is what they're really getting. When we talk about tax strategy, W-2 people are always harder to do tax strategy for. And so typically you need to be making it, or you need to be paying at least $20,000 in taxes in order to do that. But for a lot of people, they confuse accounting with tax strategy. They think, oh, I'm going to move more money in my 401k. No, we're going to go buy assets that are depreciable. We're going to do short-term rentals that we can do a whole full year. We're going to put things into syndications that can actually give you a 4-to-1 type AGI adjustment. That's the tax strategy. But in order to do the tax strategy, I can't just put this investment, this syndication in your name, this house in your name, because what happens? Oh, I have an Airbnb, somebody fell through the roof and now they're suing me. And all the things I've worked for are up for grabs. So now we have to build out the entity structure, and we'll build it out anonymously so that it can be more protected. And then we have the tax strategy on the side. So all these things are related. And so I hear people all the time come in and say, oh, I just need a business. I want to buy a couple of investment properties. And it's like, well, you need more than that, because we've got to separate the operations from the asset, because you don't want your whole, all your, so it's all these different things that people just don't plan. People don't think about, because ChatGPT will not tell you, hey, before you do this, you need to do this, 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 and then you need to link it back to your trust in case you die so your wife can take over. And that's part of what we do. And so a lot of people, it's not this complex ordeal. I work with a lot of people where it's, hey, I just need a will. I like the way you do it. I just need a trust. I like the way you do it. But the way I do it is very similar to other people, but there's that connection of the customer service, the calling, the sitting down with the coffee and just getting to know each other. You typically are going to know if you want to do business with somebody after the first 10, 15 minutes. And then it's just, okay, go do the work.
Definitely. This is why I had one last question, but you have already answered that. I wanted to ask why people should sign up with Matt. Rather than doing taxes themselves or with an AI, and you have with an absolute clarity told why it is so important.
well, that's the whole point of the business, so I get to say it a lot. And that was the gap I found in the industry. It was the silos and the misalignment of all this advice. Because of the way the industry is and because of licenses, people typically will only do one thing. And they don't want to talk to the CPA. They don't want to talk to the other person. But the client is sitting here going to see 5 different people. And then it's still not lining up because none of them are talking to each other. And I said, this has got to stop. And so I brought in CPAs. I brought in other type of attorneys. My background being tax, estate planning, financial planning. We sit down with the client. And for the first time ever, they are experiencing what it's like to have true advisors advising them. And of course, this is a tax strategy and legal analysis. That it's a paid for service, but it's worth it, because if you own a business or if you have complex concerns about, hey, I don't want to lose everything I've worked for, it's worth every penny to protect it. Because as I tell a lot of people, tax strategy, when it's done right, typically pays for most of these things. You're going to save enough money that this is a bonus. Now, of course,
Yeah.
most people don't realize that tax strategy is actually, oh, you got to actually spend the money to save the money, but that's a whole nother story.
But actually, it's the case with everything. If
Yeah.
you are running a serious business, you gotta invest in your protection first. So that's something that's amazing, Matt. I wish you great success.
Thank you, sir.
And the way you're helping people, the clarity you brings in this business, and the best part is for all the listeners who are listening today, they need to understand that if you're getting something within one single place, and you should pick that because you don't need to waste more time. Get the right advice from just under one single roof, and that's the motto of uh, Meridian Legal Advisors. Thank you so much, Matt, for coming in.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure to be here.